Well, I've farmed all my life. A little over 95 years of it. We raised corn, we raised oats and wheat, grains of different kinds, and just general farming. We had cattle, we had horses. I drove lots and lots of horses. That can be all underwater, all the lower part, where you see that all the flat ground down there, even up to possibly about where you see the tractor now. The water will come up to there. So that whole thing can be flooded, and it has been flooded. The worst years, well, back in the 70s and 60s. See, I've been through it ever since I was born. There was a number of years that we lost all but what was up on the hillside. Just little patches along where it was above the water. There's quite a few years back there that we lost. I did years ago when I was just first a kid. Why, it flooded, but nothing like it does when it gets to going now. It really, the river's just gotten so much bigger because they put so much more water into it. Well, I think the bottom of the river changes. Right here on this bend, it used to be a real deep hole. And then the river, like the river comes down from up here, comes around this bend, and then goes down, and it used to go back around and go curve back up over here, make another bend and go around that way and come down. Well, on this second bend over here, when I was just a kid, my uncles, they lived in that log house, right? That's asking a lot because I've seen lots of changes in the river. The river changes, it never stays the same exactly, you know. The river's gotten larger because they poured more water into it. So there's nothing else it could do but get larger. It was back in the 30s. But it was so dry. My dad on the home place had 4 or 5 cows, milk cows. That's where we got part of our living from. And anyway, the pasture up here was so bad, but my dad owned that land down there, and that was timberland, and so there was a lot of brush and stuff, so you had to take the cows down there and put them in there, let them eat them tree leaves and weeds, whatever they could get. And that's what kept them alive, and we'd have to go down there night and morning and milk them. And so it's quite a story.
How low would the river get during those years?
How low was it? Well, the cows went across one night up on the bend. The next morning, my dad and I went down, and they weren't on ours. We had to look for them. We looked where they went across the river, and we went across and got them back. And where we walked across the river, in a bend down by the lower farm down there, what my dad did have, the water, the deepest it was on our shoes was right there. We walked across the river. In fact, I remember the river when the steamboats used to go up and down the river. I was just a kid like that, just big enough to remember stuff like that.
Do you remember them, would you go down to the river and see them, or did they dock near here, or what do you remember?
From the home place, the trees grew up like they are now, so we could look out our west kitchen window and watch the boats go up and down. And hear the whistles, blow the whistles, and excursion boats they were, they called them. The people would be standing on the top deck, you know, along the railing, and there was people on the lower deck. And it was excursion boats, they said.
Did you ever go on a trip on one of those boats when you were?
No, never got on. I was too small. There's a steamboat that was wrecked out there, and it's the steamboat, what is left of it, whatever, is still in there, but it all went under a big sandbar, and that's the bend of the river there is all a big sandbar. The river is starting to cut it out again now, taking off, but it was big bend like that, you know, but now it's starting to cut off. Now I can remember them blowing the whistles when they went up and down the river.
Did they do that a lot? Did they blow that whistle a lot when they were going up and down?
Yeah, they'd toot them every little while, you know. You could hear them till they got way up to Judson or maybe even further. My older brother, he used to, when he was a kid, he did quite a bit of fishing along there. And then I've seen we had some people from Iowa, quite a lot of people at different times come up here and go fishing. And I'd always let them go in on the river to go fishing. And there was 4 men come up on a Friday afternoon. They got here about 5 o'clock, and they fished that night. And then, of course, in the day they didn't do too much fishing. But then the next night they fished again, and on Sunday morning they came up to the yard here. They had a Chevrolet pickup, and in the back of that pickup, now you can believe this or not, but in front of the back end gate, they had caught a big catfish. And man, that catfish head was almost as high as the back end gate of the truck. And they had it laying right in front of where the end gate goes down. They had it laying right there. And I suppose it was about that much from being the head of it, the top of that end gate. And it was short, the fish from reaching clear across the pickup was probably about that much short from reaching clear across.
That
was a big fish.